Hello, this is Zach Clark, Development and Leadership Coaching, and I want to talk with you on this video about a topic that I get so many questions about, and that is, how do you grow your network? How do you grow your reach? How do you grow the number of people that you can be talking to about getting engaged and involved in advancing your vision for your ministry, particularly as it relates to having a big impact through significant giving? Now, I think one of the reasons that I hear about this the most, and I get the most questions about this, is that most ministry leaders will say something like this. They'll say, you know, it's great that the so-and-so organization on the other side of town can raise all that money, but you know what? We don't know any of those people. We don't work with those people. We don't have those kind of donors in our community. That's a different socioeconomic strata. So that's fine, that works for them, but just because it's working for them doesn't mean that it works for us, because you know what? We don't know any of these donors. We don't know any people like that can give like that. You know, I'll hear these things all the time. Another thing I'll hear a lot is someone will say, you know, I'm not in the same socioeconomic level that these major donors are. So I'm highly uncomfortable. I don't really know any of these people. I don't know how I would talk to these people. I don't even know how you find these people. So how do you find these people? We get questions like this all the time, and it comes up all the time. And what I want to talk you through is some methods that you can use to grow your networks, because here's what you need to hear from me. That where you're located, who you serve, has very little to do with the giving that can be mobilized to advance your vision. I know that maybe it's easier if the head of the organization is a multimillionaire that came out of a corporate background and he or she knows more people already at that level. Is it easier for them? Maybe somewhat as they get started. Does where you're located play into this a little bit? Yes, but you know what? For every organization that I see that's doing well because those unusual factors are in place, there are organizations that have almost the exact same dynamic in place that are doing terrible at this. They are really struggling. And then we see for every ministry that has a team or a leader that says, we just can't do it, we don't know any of these people, then we'll see a ministry that is in an area you've never heard of, doing work that you've never heard of, and they've got unbelievable resources being brought to bear to them. So I've got to challenge your thinking a little bit here, because we've got to go back to the truth. And the truth is, these resources come from the Lord. He makes it clear that He has all the resources, and He makes it clear He will provide those for the work that He calls you to do. And He is going to provide those resources through people. So the question is, what are you doing with your time and energy to build relationships with people that over time this culture of giving begins to grow? So that's what I want to focus you in on, is some methods you can use that are going to help you do just that. So let's start at the top. First of all, when you are looking at this idea of growing your networks, this is something you have to do intentionally. It doesn't just happen. You can't just go out and buy you can go buy a list, but it's not going to do you any good. So you have to be intentional about this, and it starts with people you already know, people you already can meet with. No matter their socioeconomic strata, you have to start with who you know. That's why it's called development, starting with who you know. So the technique that we teach, you may have heard about this from us in some other way, is when you meet with someone face to face, one of the questions we want you asking consistently is, who else do I need to be talking to? Who do you know that I need to be talking to? And the response is always the same. They'll say, well, what do you mean, like raising money? Well, I mean people that love to see the Lord at work, people who might have an interest in what we're doing, and people who, yes, could have an impact, hopefully through their giving, because giving is what moves us forward. But if you ask the question, who else should I be talking to? And sit there after you ask that question with your notepad and a pen or your iPhone or your iPad, whatever you can use to take notes. You have to sit there expectantly and quietly waiting. And if you sit there quietly and do not say anything, and you have that, and you watch and you wait, they will give you names. And in fact, we tracked this. They will give you 2 to 3 names on average. So imagine that. If you meet with 10 people in the next month, getting 20 to 30 additional names to be reaching out to in the future. That's where we would want you to start. Second technique is we want you to launch a development task force. If you don't have one, get one. If you need to learn how, contact us and communicate with us about what that looks like. But you've got to start a development task force. This is a group of people who understand your plan, who understand that you need people giving to the plan at some level of significance. And the task force is there to do several things, but one of them is help you identify new people. So you're asking them, who are the people that we need to be talking to? What are the groups and connections that you already have? And if you ask the right questions, it will trigger their thinking, and they will come up with names of people that you need to meet with. So here are the triggers. First of all, you give them a list of who you already have on your list, or who you can influence, who you can reach, who you can communicate with. There's something about the human brain that when it looks at a list of people, it will make connections and will come up with additional people. So you got to do that. That's one trigger. The other trigger is you've got to ask them questions. You need to ask them, where do you spend your time? What are groups that you find yourself meeting with? Are there clubs that you're involved in? What are the gathering places that you tend to find yourself? And when you ask those questions, there's something about those that triggers the brain to identify specific names. So you got to do that with your development task force. So that's the second technique. Form a development task force and work them through those habits. They will help you develop a list of names. Third technique, form an advisory group focused on a particular strategy, a particular part of your plan for the future. Maybe they're focused on reaching a particular, growing support for a particular part of your program. Maybe they are focused on the technology component of your plan, or the business financial support, the corporate giving for your plan. But the advisory group needs to have a specific narrow focus. And when you do that, they will think of people who have that similar focus, and that will result in a significant growth, not only in names, but in giving. And then the fourth technique here relates to you and how you spend your time. And I would challenge you to identify this next year 2 groups to become a part of, to start spending time with, that are outside your professional circle. Now, what do I mean by outside? First of all, I don't want you to do what most ministry leaders do. I don't want you to use prayer meetings and prayer groups as a way to network. I think it's disingenuous, and I think it's also poor use of your time if you think that's how I'm going to grow my network, is I'm going to get involved with this prayer group. Have prayer as a lifestyle. Commit to the prayer group because of God leading you to do that. Do not use that as a place to network, okay? I don't think that God honors that. I see that a lot, and it doesn't result in the reach as well, and I think it's a bit duplicitous as well, and it makes me uncomfortable, and I know it does you as well. So don't do that, and then don't hang around with other people in the development field or in the ministry field with the purpose of networking. It's fine for you to hang around with those groups and learn and grow and benefit from that, but I find that most people in ministry leadership spend way too much time under the guise of professional networking, talking to the same people. And these people are not going to help grow your network. They're just spending time doing things other than advancing the ministry as well. So those are a couple of don't do's. Here's what I do want you to do. I want you to identify 2 groups that could really challenge you, that could grow your reach because they're outside of the norm. You wouldn't normally be a part of that group professionally or from a religious perspective. That's going to take you outside of that comfort zone of knowing all these people in this room, and you're in a new place and you've got to meet new people. And then the key there is write down the names of the people that you meet. And this is one of those simple things we forget to do. When you're in this different group, write down the names of people you meet and follow up. You don't have to obsess on this. You don't have to spend a ton of time on this. But I would like to see in the next year you've identified 2 groups, even if it's one-time groups to be involved in, that are going to take you outside the normal reach of your group. And then going along with this, if you're having a hard time thinking up groups to meet with, ask some of your major donors or your board members where you should be spending your time. This is a simple, bold question that I think that I know major donors and board members in particular have an opinion on for you. Ask them, where should I be spending my time that's going to have the most impact on moving us forward in terms of helping people see what God is doing and challenging them to have an impact through their giving. So I've given you 4 techniques there. I'd love to see you implement these, and I really look forward to hearing your questions or your stories of what you learned as you tried this out and what you saw happen. But I know this will get results. This is one of those things that we often focus in on, that we know you can do, and that we know you must do if you're actually over time going to grow your reach. And I look forward to seeing what God does with this through your work and your focus. Thank you.